Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I don't really like.
I'm going to start the recording now. I think I already did. Did I already? Yeah,
Yes, we heard it. It told us.
I am
Yes.
recording now. Yeah, last time nobody would talk. This time you guys wouldn't stop talking.
I knew you were gonna say
I
something.
apologize. I had
No,
to
I was
learn
no,
waiting
it's
about
for a
the new
great.
second.
iOS
That's what you
update.
want to
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
do.
all Matthew's
No,
fault.
I thought about not saying anything at all just to prove you wrong.
We're, we're, we're creating community, man. In fact, one of the things I was hoping that would organically happen is that you would gravitate towards particular people in the class and respond to their posts. And I think I mentioned that last time, and also that I want there to be discussion, but it's impossible to just have a discussion with 36 people. But nobody seemed to have created a virtual discussion community, so I created them for us. If you look on the Blackboard, you'll see the different groups. At least I hope I put it. You guys know how I am very absent-minded.
Oh yeah, you did put it.
Is it the
I
micro communities?
yeah.
Yes, yes. I'm very absent-minded. Um, I very clearly have ADHD, and I've lived with it all my life. But did anybody get an opportunity to listen to the Huberman episode?
Yes, the
Yes.
all 2 hours of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, one of the things that he talks about, one of the recent discoveries, and most of you probably already know this by now, is that those with ADHD, it's not that they can't focus. It's that they can't focus on things that don't interest them. And the way Huberman broke it down, which I thought was really interesting, is he's basically saying that um, those with ADHD who get in that zone, who get in that focus, what we call flow or the writer's high, do so with divergent thinking. But what they have trouble with is convergent thinking. And so that's why a lot of people with ADHD, like me, are so bad at math, right? Because math is work. When I'm writing, it's not work. Time disappears because I'm able to focus on something that I deeply care about, right? It doesn't feel like work. And I love those moments. But of course, I could probably be a little bit more balanced and be able to do the convergent work, but that's what I'm really bad at. And you're probably seeing evidence of that in how I put a time here at 11 and then a time here at 6, and how, some of the information is wrong. And it's that's like coding. And when I do that, I think a lot of writers have ADHD, but one of the things that uh, I think is really interesting about um, is that there are some people who can do both. What about you? Can you do both? Can you lose yourself in flow when making schedules and graphs, or is it just with writing? And then how, if you do tend towards the not being able to think convergently, right? That's what the duality that Huberman was using, the convergent thinker and the divergent thinker. And of course, writers want to be divergent thinkers, right? We are divergent thinkers. We can't help it. That open monitored meditation that he spoke of, which you should really practice because it's very, very productive, is kind of what we do anyway, writers. We sit there and we just follow an idea and we think about it and then go, oh shit, that's a novel. Right. But I gave you communities. So from now on, your discussion is not just an original post, and I've been giving you full points for just one post, but from now on, I want you to start a discussion with your group. and you read what they wrote, and then you comment on them, and so we want to start building community. It's really, really important that we have a really strong sense of community, especially with the class so big, 36 people, right? You've never had an online class this big, have you? It's an experiment. Okay, there's going to be, I know, a lot of questions, procedural questions. I'd like to save those for last. And I would like to start in with, did anybody, I'm going to share my screen actually. Hold on. Okay, hold on. Can you see that?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
YouTube?
Yes.
Yep.
So let's watch this.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the secret YouTube channel. Here you will find hundreds of videos featuring inspiring conversations, live Q&A,
Now it's not sharing.
powerful tips, and practical advice
Yeah, the
on
video
how
stopped sharing, Daniel.
to manifest the life of your dreams. This video is the opening 10 minutes of the original feature-length documentary film, The Secret, remastered in stunning high definition and presented exclusively right.
Okay, I'm sorry, that's not what I wanted you to see. So hold on. Let me get to it. See, I told you when it comes to coding and like those kind of things, I'm really bad at this, but be patient with me. Oh, shit. Okay, this is what I wanted you to see right here. Sorry about that mistake. Hold on. I probably should be embarrassed about being so bad at this, but I'm gonna.
It actually
Right.
makes me feel better about being in my own classroom because I'm very similar. So scatterbrained, and the kids are like, I'm like, hey, we're human. I make mistakes all the time. It's perfect.
Yeah, yeah. Who was talking? Who just said that? I was trying to find the share button. Who said that?
That was me. I'm eating a salad, so I'm going off screen every now and then. I don't want y'all to. I don't know. That feels like it would be unpleasant.
Yeah, we don't want to this out. That makes sense. Thank you for that. Okay. Okay, so check this out. Here it is.
Throughout history, all the great minds, all the great leaders, all the great achievers, they had something in common. Now the great glimmering of truth can be revealed again. You know, this secret gives you everything you want. Happiness, health, and wealth. You can have, do, or be anything you want. I've seen many miracles take place in people's lives. Financial miracles, miracles of physical healing, mental healing, healing in relationships. All of this happened because of knowing how to apply the secret.
Is it me or did the song drop?
It's coming in and out.
Yeah, I'm not getting any audio from the video.
You didn't get any audio the whole time?
No, the audio was cutting in and
Yeah,
out.
it was
Like
coming in and out.
we could
Why didn't you
hear it,
guys tell
but
me, man.
I mean, we
Okay.
could read it.
well,
Yeah,
Yeah, I was
yeah,
reading the
the
subtitle.
But I wonder why that was. I hope it doesn't happen because I have another one to show you, and this one has more talking.
Professor, if you just drop the link in the chat, like we're all able to watch them. So
Right, but we would be watching them in different times, right?
this is true.
right.
You tell us hit play now, and we all hit play.
Yeah, that's gonna anyway. Did you guys see that? What are your thoughts on this? Have you heard of The Secret?
Yes.
I went through that material a few years ago.
Who's saying that? Oh, Vincent. Yeah, you read through
Vincent,
some of that. You read through that material a few years ago. Yeah, and how did you respond to it?
Well, I think most of it for me, I interpret it to be referring to focus. It's all about focus.
Right.
There's no magic. There's no magic. There's no thing that happens. It just comes down to focus.
Okay, so what you saw, Vincent, is you saw the metaphor they were using for a physiological phenomenon or a physiological fact or a physiological situation. You saw that they were using a metaphor for something that might be shrouded or somehow trying to get at a truth about being human.
Okay. Yes.
No?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Right? Because you didn't believe that magic shit. It's a really horrible book and a horrible movie. It's completely pop culture. You got to have hope. You got to, visualize this, do your vision board. It's completely that. And that is incredibly superficial and incredibly gender and economic and culturally biased way of looking at success and reality, right?
Yes.
Because the basic idea is if you picture something, your picture will cause it to come true, right?
Yes.
And there is some physiological truth to that. If you picture the house that you want, the partner that you want, the bicycle that you want, whatever it is, if you picture it, you are creating, in a certain sense, the desire, which is energy to get your body to moving in a certain way that will get you what it is that you're picturing. And if you keep that picture in front of your mind over and over again, it will ultimately drive you there because you are moving your body towards a goal.
Focused.
Not yet. That's not focus yet.
Okay.
We'll get to focus.
Is this kind of sort of like manifesting type?
That's exactly what people call it, manifesting, the law of attraction, the secret. Right?
I do have a question if you don't mind me asking, because I've heard of this the book and I guess whatever before, but I'm not really familiar with it. So it's just about trying to pursue and keeping your mind on the prize kind of thing. Because like if I saw that trailer with no context, I would assume it's like some kind of new age Scientology thing.
Right.
I was a little confused by the trailer.
The trailer was meant to make you think there's some sort of mystical, eternal truth that's about to be revealed, but it's not.
Okay.
And that's how you know they're charlatans, in a sense. Because they're claiming to reveal a secret that only a very few knew. And it's kind of true. because very few people didn't know it, but that's because very few people before the printing press had access to books, let alone the ability to read them. It was a very elite crowd that shared philosophy. People who were working in the fields or cleaning houses were not reading Schopenhauer. They were not reading Nietzsche. They were not reading. So it's not that it was a secret. It's that it was a secret. It was a discourse community that was very privileged. One that had a lot of time to read and to think and to ponder. Yes, Gabby. Put your mic.
It reminded me very much of the reading that we did by Wallace. And as I'm reading that, first I thought it was I thought it was a satire first. I was like, are you kidding me? And then I was like, oh, this man's serious. Like, this isn't a joke book. But I was so like overwhelmed by his sense of entitlement, and what you're saying about privilege was like exactly what I was thinking. Like, it doesn't take into account, the systemic racism that we've put in place for hundreds of years. It doesn't take into account the privilege that other people have. So I'm like, yeah, it's very well and good to be like, oh, let's manifest and bring all these riches to ourselves, but it's not the same for every single person in our society.
If you were a child imagining the bicycle that you want, and you lived in a neighborhood that was safe and where people had good jobs and your parents had good jobs and they had disposable income, you will manifest that bike very quickly. But if you are one of those children that is being held in detention centers because they don't have citizenship, I don't care how often you picture that bike, you're not going to get it. It works in a particular playing field, in a particular theater of existence. It works for those people in that neighborhood. And the neighborhood, of course, is a metaphor for those who have had access to books, access to ideas, and who were part of the economic system. When you look at it that way, what you're looking at really are physiological principles that are rooted in being human. And those principles are the evolutionary imperative to want to continue to be who you are and wanting to flourish, to expand, to grow, like we talked about last week, right? Those two imperatives. Growth, riches, whatever you want to call it, is how we're coded. And we belong to some sort of ecosystem wherein our desire to survive and to flourish, our desire to do that affects the relationship of absolutely everything, not only on our earth, but just everything. It absolutely influences everything. Does that make sense?
I think I understand what you're saying. I'm
not gonna lie, I'm still a little bit lost on some of it.
So I guess for me, it seems like when we examine like the phenomenon that was The Secret, like you talked about like the sort of mysticism, because they do quote scripture. I think it was, hold on, I have it pulled up, Matthew 21:22, whatever you ask for in prayer with faith you shall receive. So it seems like this, like the secret to manifesting is just prayer, or like believing that if you want it hard enough that it will happen, but that removes any agency from any involvement, any work from you to make that happen. And
Yeah, Kevin, you know what you just did? You just did exactly what Vincent did. You took the core idea that underlays their metaphor, and in one case, the metaphor is to pray without ceasing, right? And you will get it, and that is the metaphor for the same drive to seek to flourish. It's rooted in your body. It's rooted in your nervous system. It's entirely what being human is, that desire to flourish. And one of the ways of using your own physical, biological energy to pursue is to have faith. You're going to get something. You're going to get something. And we all know that if you have faith in something, you live in a different world than people who don't have that faith. If you have faith, let's say you have faith that you should you have faith that if you go to church on the day that you don't feel like you want to go to church, you're tired, you just don't want to go, but you have faith that if you go, you're going to be blessed. When you get into that church, you are going to find a unit of probably either an image or a linguistic or some sort of syntactical unit that will resonate with you so much that it will give you exactly what it is that you were seeking, which is to be enlightened or to have some sort of blessing, right? This has happened to everybody. You don't want to go to a meeting, but then you go to the meeting and you force yourself, well, there's going to be something good about it, right? Now, what would have happened in that meeting would have happened anyway, but because you were not focused on your faith, because it didn't come from faith, you don't encode it as meaningful. You don't encode it as something that is related to your attitude or what it is that you pictured or what it is that you wanted. But what you essentially do when you walk into a meeting, when you walk into work, when you walk down the street, is you bring your imperatives with you, and it filters out the landscape to give you only what you need. Your reality is an interface. What's driving your choices, whether you're conscious of it or not, is your body, your physiology, your nervous system, your imperatives, your desire. Does that make any more sense?
I guess so. So to clarify, especially when we talk about the how to, or the science of getting rich and the secret, I guess you're suggesting that the framework for that is faith as an output of our desire or drive. But I guess the way that I look at faith, it seems I feel like faith is always, it's up to someone else, it's up to this higher being to make that thing happen for me, and they'll do it if I just believe in them hard enough. So that's I think that's where my brain is kind of trying to wrap my head around.
Here's what I'm saying, Kevin. If you believe God will help you in your world, not in mine, not in your neighbor's world, but in your world, there will be proof over and over again that God will help you.
Got it. So like a self-affirming confirmation
that's the
bias.
simulation that you're going to live in, right? We're all living in a simulation, period. I know we don't like to think of it that way. We like to think there's some hardcore reality, but there isn't. Everybody has a different reality. Those people who believe deeply in God not only have constant confirmation, but they're actually are healthier in general, because their body has some sort of way to understand that drive to flourish, to be connected to something bigger than yourself. When right before you die, you could be 100 years old. You are not going to stop trying to create. You're going to plant roses in a garden. You're going to plant an orange tree. We are just so driven to flourish. That when we have a belief system, a metaphorical system that optimizes our physiological ability to receive the goals of our imperatives, it helps to frame it within the context of God or religion. Those people who are religious generally tend to be healthier. At least those are what the studies are saying. But what I'm saying is that if you have faith, if you have determination, then you have more chance of getting what it is that you want. But you have to have, call it faith, call it determination, call it drive, but you have to have it. And the problem with The Secret and the superficiality of a lot of religions, including, I mean, just almost any religion, the superficiality of the version of the religion, not the mystical version of the religion, but the superficial and the very superficial secret is that it's saying all you have to do is say, God, bring me a husband, bring me a wife, bring me a car, and the next day there'll be a car out there. That's not going to happen. What they're leaving out of The Secret is the hard work. That's what they're leaving out. Especially if you're not in a playing field where you can manifest, right? If you're starving and you're trying to get enough food to put on your family's table, you want to manifest what you're going to eat for the next meal. Yeah, right? You don't have time to, you know, to dabble in metaphysics. Any questions or comments, or are you is any of this making sense? The Secret is a very simple, very superficial metaphor for the evolutionary imperative to flourish. And every system, whether it's The Secret, Christianity, Judaism, whatever, any system of belief is a physiological manifestation of the fact that you are human. Blake says all religions are the same.
I kind of have a thought or like a comment. So based off the systems of belief, like depending on how you attach or like think of it, you're putting yourself into that simulation, or is there like a system of simulation depending on if you don't put yourself into a belief system?
Okay, so say that again, Matt, please, just one more time.
So yeah, so you're talking about the belief systems and the simulations like attached to the belief system. So then I'm thinking, okay, well, for maybe those that don't have a belief system, that in its own is still a part of a simulation of belief. I think like choosing not to believe.
Okay, yeah. I totally...
But then there's like a layer to it, I guess, depending, because there's those belief systems, but then like life as a whole would be a simulation.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, the thing about one of the concepts of brainwashing and marketing, as you know, is that those people who don't think they're influenced by ads are the ones that are the most influenced by it, right? That's just an axiom in psychology. If you don't think you're influenced by persuasion, you're probably, if you say, I never make choices based on commercials, yet you go to Walmart and you pull Tide off the shelf as opposed to a generic thing, right? And if you know that you are subject to persuasion, you're able to guard against it more effectively. It's the same with religion. If you think you have no religion, you are more vulnerable to a very strict religious system that is coming from different parts of your culture and your family and your body and all these things that you piece together to create a system that isn't probably going to be very effective in structuring reality because it's going to constantly change according to your mood and according to what point in your the time continuum you find yourself.
Either change or not change for the lack of it, right? Maybe.
Okay, I'm sorry, say that again.
Either to change or to not change within that, like if that happens. Like, because people get caught in certain like habits, or like you're saying, like with family and culture, but then there's also these other things that are like into play, so it could either change or not change.
We have teenagers who spend a lot of time scrolling through Instagram, and a lot of the world that they are creating is structured by how they negotiate the feed. And so their version of reality, because they're not conscious of it, they're taking that version of reality and projecting it onto the landscape. And so they're going to have very little attention span, very little ability to focus. What they're doing is they are they are adopting unconsciously a system of reality that's not it's not Catholicism, it's not Buddhism, it's not capitalism, it has absolutely no ideological imperative, because it is created by those who want to get them addicted to the platform and who want to suck all their energy, their attention out of them, like those images in the Matrix movie where they're sucking all the energy out of the human bodies. That's what it's doing. And so her system that she lives by is very structured. It's very restricted, even more so than religion and philosophy, because she doesn't know it's there. And so those people who think, unless they're philosophers, because then they're going into different realms of cognition, but for most people who don't think that they're religious, they're living a reality that is default. It's the default unconscious reality. And most of it comes from the default mode network of consciousness. Do you know what this is? The DMN. This is the part most of us spend most of our time in, the default mode of consciousness, unless we're always scrolling. And it's when you're not really doing anything. And you're like maybe washing dishes, or you're walking to the refrigerator, and these thoughts start to come that are self-referential. You start thinking about your life, right? And then we spend a lot of time in these default mode networks in this time where we are thinking a lot about our lives, and a lot of times, because we are wired to think negatively, when we kind of examine our lives, we start to pick at ourselves and we start to destroy ourselves. And what happens is, because we are doing that, we are going out into the landscape and manifesting a world that constantly reinforces what we believe that occurred to us through our default mode network, but that we would never, ever claim to be how we really think. You might say, oh, I think life's great. I think we can do everything we want. But if you spend a lot of time thinking about these self-referential things that pull you away from your goals, you're going to create a world where you live. Your simulation is going to be constantly giving you information that will reinforce. And it's not that it's magic. What it is simply your brain filtering out information that is irrelevant to your goals. Your brain, I'll say that again, your brain filters out information that is irrelevant to your goals. And what are your goals? To survive and to flourish. And if you don't have control over those goals, and those goals are default goals because you have no belief system, because you have no plan or whatever, then you are really incredibly vulnerable to time and chance, more so than if you were able to filter out a world that allows you to have fun. Have fun.
I'm curious, because Kevin commented earlier, I guess based off of like what I had mentioned was, is disbelief a choice? I was curious, Kevin, do you want to like elaborate on that real quick?
Well, I mean, just in general, like when we talk about like choosing to believe, like, I mean, I am someone who grew up pretty religious. Like I was in all of the church plays, right? And now, just through the act of discovering that, I'm a person who identifies as queer, like that not being in alignment with the church and like all of that, it wasn't necessarily like a choice to disbelieve. It's just that in order for me to exist, like that does not align with the teachings of the church. So, and then as I start to examine, like, well, what is belief? Like, what am I feeling? Or even thinking about like when we look at like cults, right, and stuff like that, it's like, okay, then what we're feeling is not something other. Like the feeling of belief that's happening, in a mega church is created because of the people around you, right? Like that feeling that's happening that we mistake for like, you know, a deity. So like my disbelief or my no longer believing in an omniscient God was created by my initial belief in omniscient God.
You're bringing up a really good point there, Kevin, that feeling that you get when you're in the community, like you're going to church and you're raising your hands and you feel the Holy Spirit descend upon you. You feel yourself filled with light, is the same feeling you get at a football game when you stand up and do the wave. It's the exact same feeling. It's physiological. Whether or not we have faith doesn't really matter much, except for in that I would choose the faith that structures your goals, your desires, better than other structures. My dad used to tell us, he says, I was born a Catholic and I will die a Catholic. And we used to make fun of him. We would say, well, what if you're wrong? What if, he says, I don't care if I'm wrong. I don't care if it's wrong. He says, you got to believe in what you were taught by your parents. You have to believe that. And we all, made fun of him and say, okay, so what if your parents told you to worship a telephone pole? And he said, then I would worship a telephone pole until I die. Now, even though that's ridiculous and it's funny, there is a certain advantage to using the system you grew up with, not as a profession or an alignment of faith, or I want to be a part of it, but rather as a metaphorical structure of reality, because you have to have one if you want to really, you don't have to have one. You can live without one. But if you have one, it opens up the multiverse. And because one of the things that you begin to realize is the structure you're using exists in every structure there is that has to do with reality. and all the things associated with reality, epistemology, ontology, all those things.
Nick said that you said to trust the abuelas.
Yeah, right. And Nick, you want to give that context? I can't hear you. Nick?
I think he was eating too.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was
Okay.
eating dinner. Sorry.
Oh, no,
My
I
my apologies. My wife made red beans and rice. Fantastic meal. You yourself, though, Professor, said trust your abuelas, right?
I don't. Can you tell me what context? Because what I said was trust your intuition.
We're talking about intuition, right?
No,
We're
right
talking
now
about
I trust
faith.
your abuelas. I'm sorry. I said trust your abuelas.
I'm just talking about that. I'm sorry. I don't mean to. Sorry, I don't mean to use your own words against you. I just was talking about the words that 2 weeks ago you said, "Hey, the abuelas were right." Right?
Oh, about
Like,
intuition, right?
yeah. So you were. I think you were talking about. I think it was in context of the vagus nerve, from your gut to your brain,
Okay,
and how you're. And you know what? The podcast that you had us listen to, the Huberman guy, never heard of that guy before, but like he kind of reinforced what you were saying. Like the things that you consume, your physical, your body, what you consume directly influences your mind, your brain, your creative, whatever. But like you said, maybe the things that your grandmothers, you called them abuelas, but maybe the things that your grandma said to you, I called her my grandma, right? Yeah, but and she chain smoked and listened to like evangelical radio,
Oh my God.
and cooked me bacon in the kitchen where I was growing up. But like, so that was my abuela. But like, maybe she was right. Maybe they were right about, so I don't know, some things.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think that that when you pass on wisdom from generation to generation that isn't necessarily you know, part of a text, you know, or part of a formal structure, you pass that wisdom down, that eventually the formal structures catch up to the wisdom and incorporate them into their system somehow. Like, for example, I think one of the things that, you know, Eastern mysticism and religion has been telling us a lot is to have time for prayer and meditation. And that has been really kind of scoffed at by science and neuroscience for such a long time. But now, with scientists like Sam Harris and even Andrew Huberman and you know, they are showing that meditation actually does have a way of rewiring your brain or getting your brain to respond in ways that you want it to, like to focus, for example. And an example is yoga nidra. Yoga nidra is, I do it every freaking day. It's so valuable for me. But it's thousands of years old, comes from India. And now science is finally catching up. And he refers to this paper showing the positive effects of yoga nidra, especially on divergent thinking. But also, does anybody, do you know what yoga nidra is? Did you?
I have no idea.
I started that about 5 years ago. It's remarkable.
Yeah. Who said that?
Vincent.
Yeah, it really works very, very well. But it was not taken very seriously because it was 1,000 years ago and it was thought to be woo-woo by neuroscience. In fact, neuroscience departments at universities used to think that studying consciousness itself was woo-woo. was like witchcraft. And if any neuroscientist in a department was publishing on consciousness, they would get, basically turned away from the university. Now, most neuroscience departments are all about consciousness, right? Yeah, so the science is catching up to the abuelas in many ways. That a lot of things that they told us for thousands of years are now becoming part of science. Breathing exercises. Breathe through your nose and then out your mouth with more of an extended breath and out your mouth. Hypnotists use this, right? It puts you in a different consciousness when you use breathing techniques and all that stuff. But this is stuff that they've been telling us for 1,000 years, and now it's starting to come together. So yeah. But anyway, where were we?
I think before then, you were kind of like, I guess, sort of concluding your thoughts on the belief of plans. If you don't have control because you have no belief of plans, then you are vulnerable.
Yeah. So have you read Wallace Wattles?
That was The Science of Getting Rich?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, good. What are your impressions on this? Okay, Stephanie, why, I appreciate everybody writing comments, but I don't notice. Let me read this comment. The discussion about the breathing and the meditation reminded me that I used to do those, and coincidentally or not, I did write a lot more back then. Yeah, it's probably not a coincidence, Stephanie. Yeah, so let's talk about the science of getting rich. What are your impressions of this? Or what I could do is I could share my screen with you and look at some. We can have fun with exegesis. Do you guys know that word?
Yes, I teach rhetorical analysis.
Okay, see, I knew most of you would, but just in case somebody didn't, I wanted to define it. Exegesis is who said they teach that? Kevin, was that you? Who said that?
I teach AP Language and Composition.
Okay, so what is exegesis?
So I guess in terms of exegesis, we talk about like what is happening in the moment for an author or for a speaker to kind of within the rhetorical situation for them to like sit down and either write that thing or give that speech in that moment. Like what is the here and now for the speaker or the writer of the text.
Okay, all right, great. That's really interesting. The way I want to use exegesis is it's a practice, a mystical and very philosophical practice of going really deeply into a text and to look at absolutely every image, every sentence construction, even the numerical values of the letters, and finding hidden truths. Right? This is something that mystics do. Whether they're rabbis or Christian mystics, they go into these texts and they go very deeply into them. The greatest example is the Talmud or the Zohar, which is from Judaism, right? Where they go into the text, they go very, very deeply. And we love to do this because we're writers. We love to go deeply into a text, but we might go into it differently than an English major, somebody who wants to write about literature. The way they go deeply into the text is to uncover themes and blah, blah, blah. The way we go into a text usually is to just explore the landscape and look around and look for lost symbols or uncover hidden symbols and hidden meanings, right? We love doing that. That's called exegesis, when you go deeply into a text and look and uncover the different layers. Exegesis is part of the, I don't know, it's part of the fun of being a writer, right? To be able to look at a text and see different meanings at once. Again, we go back to Flannery O'Connor's ontological vision, right? Where we see all these multiple layers existing at once. I want to do a little bit of exegesis of the science of getting rich. Why? Because the science of getting rich is the fundamental text of New Thought philosophy. And that's capital N and capital P, capital T, New Thought philosophy. And if you don't know what New Thought philosophy is, I can tell you, but maybe some of you know who it is. I don't want to assume that everybody knows or that everybody doesn't know. Should I define it?
Yes, please.
New Thought philosophy is the idea behind The Secret, behind the Law of Attraction, behind the books of Eckhart Tolle, behind Think and Grow Rich. It is the philosophy that Trump and a lot of other rich people have grown up on. And The Secret is only one manifestation of it. Another manifestation, like I said, is the law of attraction. Another one is there's this new kind of quasi-religion based on quantum mechanics, and how quantum mechanics shows that if you were to picture something, the atoms, the particles will reconfigure themselves and create that, which is, it's really superficial. But they say quantum mechanics a lot, and they talk about so it almost sounds like it's smart, but it's not. It's really very superficial. It's like The Secret. Where was I? So, oh yeah. Wallace Wattles' text is the fundamental text. Wallace Wattles is to New Thought philosophy what Raymond Carver is to character-based North American short fiction. If we were to look at a story of Raymond Carver in his minimalist days, we can go through every single line and unpack meaning. He is probably one of the best short fiction writers, you know, that ever lived, that ever wrote. But it's a particular style. And you don't have to like his style. But one of the things that you could do is you can go into a Raymond Carver story, and from the first line to the last, especially, I'm talking about the minimalist stories. From the first to the last, you can unpack every single line and release a lot of energy. And that's what he did. He took the energy of a Flannery O'Connor type story, a character-based story, a character-driven story, and compressed it. And when you compress that much energy, of course, there's going to be, it's like poetry. That's the secret of poetry, right? Every poet knows that. It's the resistance of the line. You want to pull the line back. You want to resist, and that resistance, a good poem will push against the line like it wants to go on. Right? This makes sense to everybody, you guys who are poets, right? It's the same with short fiction. You want to be able to push on the fabric of that fiction's reality, and Raymond Carver does that better than anybody. And if you're interested, in the next class, we could take one of his stories, which is called Popular Mechanics, and it's a very, very short one-page story, and we could spend an entire class going in there and uncovering things about form, about reality, about structures, about systems. We can do that with Wallace Wattles, because Wallace Wattles did what Carver did. He took the entire philosophy stuff, Emerson, he mentions Emerson, he mentions, I remember who else, Hegel, all these philosophers who are responsible for creating or for, influencing American thought, because New Thought philosophy is an American philosophy. It doesn't mean it doesn't have its roots in Europe and in Eastern traditions, but and it makes sense, right? I remember first time I traveled to Poland, I met somebody and I said, oh, wow, I think he was only 19. And I says, wow, you're so young, you have so much potential. He says, you sound like an American, right? So we can do that with giants of short fiction like M.R. James or Frederick Brown. Absolutely. Good fiction you can go into over and over again. And this is, by the way, what makes Kafka so timeless, because you can go into him over and over again and uncover new things. All good fiction is like that. All good fiction. And that's why we love it. And what we want to do is we want to write fiction that allows people to go into it over and over again and discover hidden layers, right? And of course, we'll talk about how we do that. But so I wanted to look at a little bit of Wallace Wattles. And I have a lot of things I want to talk about, but was there anything that struck you guys?
Quite a bit.
Go ahead, let's start a discussion.
So is there a standard for rich? Like when this whole book is about getting rich, the science of getting rich. How is that measured when you get rich?
That's the fundamental question, isn't it?
Yes.
Here's the thing, just like The Secret is a superficial metaphorical structure to express, something that's rooted in physiology and in nature, if you will. It's the same with Wallace Wattles. It's an attempt to describe using a pretty superficial structure. It's an attempt to describe using a superficial, something that is physiological. In fact, he even calls it the science of getting rich, that it is science like anything else, because if you practice this, you will get rich, period. Now, we know how very superficial that is, because first of all, again, if you get rich and you were of the privileged class in the United States in the 1930s, you were middle class, you had opportunities. Yeah, you could use the method and it would be pretty effective, because you filter out information that doesn't serve your needs. One of the examples he gives is like, let's say you want to do a business deal and you imagine that you're going to go to this conference and you're going to meet somebody and they're going to help you with your business deal. And you go there and you meet a man from Texas and he's going to invest in your company, something like that, right? Remember that? Duh. If I go to a conference thinking I want to meet somebody who shares the same passion I do for neuroscience, of course I'm going to meet somebody. The odds of me not meeting somebody are really, really low. Right? And so this isn't magic. It isn't, some sort of, it's just, he's trying to structure, but he's trying to use scientific language. And the problem is, he doesn't consider different communities. I just read this book, took place in Qatar. And it was talking about how rich everything is there. The malls were just incredibly rich. Everybody was just, wearing these rich clothes. But behind all that, they had immigrant communities providing all the services that weren't part of that. So if you are in that playing field, yeah, you could do anything. But if you are outside of the playing field, It becomes a lot more difficult. And that's something that he didn't understand.
That's the same thing in the UAE. The UAE population is 85% foreign labor.
Right.
And they can't own property. They can't retire there. You have to leave. I don't know if things have changed in the last 5 or 6 years, but that's what it was 5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And that's what the version of this community is who Wallace Wattles writes for and from. And so, you know, so of course he's going to have a kind of myopic perspective about opportunity, but the fundamentals of his science are exact. They're right on. Hi, honey. I love you too. The fundamentals of his science are exactly correct. And so if you could walk away from Wattles pulling out the truths, it could be an incredible, remember we were talking about the archetypes giving you some sort of object that will help you in your journey. It could be like that. Because all systems in one way or another are trying to articulate the same thing that Wallace Wattles is trying to articulate. But rich? No, no, no. Just like I don't think procreate is the right word for evolution or evolutionary imperatives. I think it's very gender biased. And it's very like, oh, all we want to do is, you know, procreate. That's it. That's it. That's it. And then, you know, but then why not die after you're done procreating, right? It just doesn't make sense. Rich doesn't make sense. So what would make sense? The science of getting rich, what can we change that word for? And to just use the metaphorical structure, but to get rid of the cultural, the cultural myopy.
Well, I prefer to think of it as success and whatever your goals are at the moment.
Okay. But the problem with success, though, that also has a very market-driven connotation. You know, but it's a better word. It's a better word.
Well, for me, like if you're trained to be an athlete and you want to you know be the best or run 100 meters in a certain time, that's your goal. You accomplish that, then you're successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's definitely a much better word. But let's look at this right here, where he talks about the monastic theory of the universe, that one is all and that all is one. Now, he mentions the Oriental philosophers, which was, you know, the term back then: Descartes, Spinoza, Leibniz, Schopenhauer, Hegel, and Emerson. Now, what all these have in common is their ability to connect mind and matter, to be able to connect the material, to be able to reconcile the duality of mind and body or mind and matter. And what they believed was that essentially there really was no difference between mind and matter, that it all comes from one thing. It's all just, there's only this one thing. And each of them, of course, had their own arguments that are way beyond the scope of my research or beyond the scope of this class. But the idea of monoism is that it's all one. And this is an idea that is rooted in modern science. The fact that we need to believe in the Big Bang is a manifestation of this belief in monism, that it all started as one. It all started with the Big Bang. The whole idea of ontology, which is the study of the origins of reality or the universe, is rooted in this idea of monoism. It has structured cultures throughout time, but it competes with dualities, because out of monoism comes duality. And the basic duality is the mind-matter duality, right? if there is no difference, then the mind and the matter are one. So you should be able to manifest, right? You should be able to manifest. So here he says, the purpose of nature is advancement and unfoldment of life, and every man should have all that contribute to the power. Again, you got to understand the language back then where you'd say man. Elegance, beauty, and riches is life. To be content with less is sinful. So think of the evolutionary, he uses the word purpose, but we can replace purpose with biological drives. These two drives are fundamental to frame and to understand, which is to say that we need to name those, or it would be helpful to name those fundamental forces of nature for ourselves. Is any of this making sense? I feel like I'm losing everybody. It's probably getting a little too, we're probably going on maybe a little too long for everybody. I understand that. There's a lot to unpack here. What I'll do is I'll send you a copy of the Wallace Wattles with my comments on it, because I comment extensively on a lot of it. But I think to try to go over it today is just going to be too overwhelming. So why don't we try to bring some sort of continuity to our discussion today through your questions and through your understanding of how the dualities might be able to help us build a structure. If you are a Christian, your dualities are very easy to figure out, right? If you are, almost any kind of religion or philosophy, it has its own dualities. If you are a simulation hypothesis, obviously your dualities are zeros and ones, right? But probably most relevant dualities for us is mind and matter. What is the difference between mind and matter? Is there, do you live in a purely materialist world? I want to show you one other thing to contrast. Well, wait, there's a new message. I want to show you one other video to contrast with The Secret. And this is by Donald Hoffman. Has anybody ever read Donald Hoffman? I highly recommend reading his book, A Case Against Reality. He is a cognitive scientist at UC Irvine, one of the foremost researchers on the part of the brain called V1, which is the visual part of the brain, the visual processing, the visual cortex. And he's been writing about vision for a long time. And his latest book, he is expressing the idea that we all create our own reality through an interface, like computer icons on your desk. And his is a mathematical model based largely on game theory. And what he's saying, in essence, is there is no evolutionary imperative. And he's run this through many, many simulations and couldn't find one reason why evolution would present reality to us the way it actually is. That what we see as reality is an interface that has some sort of fitness payoff. So for example, if you see a red apple, a nice, really beautiful red apple, we know, he knows because he studied the brain, there is no such thing as red. Red is a fabrication of your visual cortex. There is no red. It doesn't exist in nature. And the redder it is, however, the more we are attracted to it. And the more we are likely to pick it up and to bite it because it has an evolutionary payoff. But we are creating the apple. And so I just want you to look at this really very quick video.
Can you repeat the name and the author for that book?
You'll see it on the thing right now, but yeah, it's Donald Hoffman, and the book is The Case Against Reality. All right, here it is. Here it is. Hold on, let me pause it. Okay, I'm going to share my screen now. And hopefully you guys can hear. I hope you hear the whole thing. Did I share my screen?
No.
Okay, I didn't think so. It's my ADHD, forgive me. No, that's not what I want you to see. I want you to see this. Can you see it? Can you see it?
Yeah. We see your notes app.
Yeah.
Do you see this video?
No, we just see your notes.
Yeah. You're not seeing it.
No, sir.
Shit.
You're probably sharing a window and you need to share your screen.
Yeah, I am trying to do that, but application. Oh, there it is. Okay, you should be able to see it now, right?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, we see it now.
Flow is often described as a state of kind of effortless effort. We feel like we're propelled through the activity. Everything else just seems to disappear. Time
It's
is
gone now.
just a fancy way of saying it's going to pass strange.
Yeah,
5 hours.
it disappeared.
5 minutes. Occasionally it'll slow down. You get a freeze frame effect. I mean, anybody who's been in a car crash, for example.
Yeah, sorry about that. It happened again. I don't know why, but the link that I copied, it's the wrong one. So let me just look into my history real quick and I'll have it for you. Jeez, man. What's wrong with you, Chacon? Here it is. Jeez. Can't believe I did that. Okay. Let's try it again, folks. All right. You there?
Yes.
Sir.
Everything that we perceive around us, space and time, the sun and the moon, apples, are just a virtual reality. We have a headset on. It's very similar in spirit to the simulation hypothesis of Nick Bostrom and others that say we're not seeing reality as it is. And there aren't many things that are similar from my point of view and Nick Bostrom's, but there are several things that are fundamentally different. So first, the similarities. The idea that this is all a simulation, that we're not seeing reality as it is something that I'm saying as well. But this is, that space-time itself is just a data structure. Physical objects are just a data structure. They're not objective reality. So on that point, I agree with the simulation hypothesis that we're not seeing the truth. We're seeing something other than the truth. Where I differ is the following. In the simulation hypothesis, right, there's some programmer at a lower level that has created the simulation that's us. But that programmer themselves could be a simulation by another programmer at a lower level. And this keeps going. There could be a hierarchy of these different levels of simulation until you get to some bottom level. And in the standard story of the simulation hypothesis, at the bottom level, there's a physicalist space-time world where there's a real programmer in space and time with a real physical computer that's programming the whole thing. So our space-time might be virtual, but at the bottom, there is a real space-time with a real physical world. And I'm denying that. I'm denying that at any point, space-time and physical objects correspond to an objective reality. A second difference that I have is that in the simulation hypothesis, they assume, or explicitly state that the conscious experiences that we're having right now, if I'm having a headache or I'm smelling garlic or I'm feeling velvet and so forth, those specific conscious experiences are produced by the program, by the simulation. And that, I claim, is not possible. That it's not possible from computer programs, from algorithms that are not conscious to boot up consciousness. This is the so-called hard problem of consciousness. How is consciousness, your experiences of, you know, the taste of garlic, the smell of chocolate and so forth, how are those conscious experiences related to your brain activity and to the physical world more generally? And most of my colleagues and friends would say that somehow unconscious dynamical physical systems like neural networks or computer circuits and so forth will somehow give rise to the experience of conscious, of consciousness. And I'm saying that that's not possible, that you can't start with unconscious ingredients and boot up consciousness. No one's been able to do it. There are no theories about how to do it. And the simulation hypothesis depends on the possibility that unconscious programs could boot up consciousness, and that's not possible.
Interesting. Interesting. What about the one AI in our world that actually has consciousness? I'm curious.
What do you mean?
Isn't there one AI that exists in our world that actually had obtained consciousness?
Oh, well, that was a Google employee who had a relationship with the large language model and claimed it to be conscious. But there's no evidence that there's consciousness because there is no such thing as consciousness. It's a construction made up by those who study mind but there really is, you cannot point to something and say it's consciousness on the materialistic level, on the materialist level, which is probably why neuroscientists used to think it was too much like witchcraft to study consciousness because it didn't exist. Now they believe it does exist. They don't know how to explain it. And he was talking about the hard problem of consciousness, right? That's the hard problem. How do you explain consciousness? Where did it come from? But the thing about consciousness is that, frankly, I don't know if you are conscious, Matthew. I suspect that you are based on all the evidence, but there's absolutely no way for me to prove that you are conscious. Conscious experience is only experienced by the conscious unit. So you can't measure it. You can't, yeah. What was your thing about it? Oh yeah, about whether or not AI is conscious. So the thing is, whether or not AI is conscious doesn't matter because there are people who have a much stronger relationship with AI than I have with you, Matt. A lot of people have a real relationship with their AI. It doesn't matter to them if the AI is conscious. And so question of is AI conscious is a smokescreen put on, I believe, I don't want to sound like a conspiracy theorist, so maybe smokescreen is the wrong word, but it is the culture that the AI, the owners of AI are creating because they want people to think of AI as a conscious unit. Sam Altman specifically asked people to say thank you to ChatGPT. And even though that costs them a lot of money, uses a lot of water, a lot of energy, every time you say thank you and it responds back, they want you to do that. Why? Because they want AI to seem like a conscious agent. So when it starts booking tickets for you and it starts to have a relationship like you have in that movie, Her, it'll become so important that you will never want to be without it. And they can keep raising the prices and the subscription because you're going to be so attached to your AI. So is it the whole idea of consciousness in AI is a moot point. It's a distraction away from what's really going on, which is AI is becoming so important in everybody's life that they're not going to be able to function without it. And they're going to live in an economic system where there's going to be people who can afford the best AI. Like right now, there's a $200 a month chat GPT that does a lot of stuff, or the free versions. And what do you think the poor are going to use? They're going to use the free versions, and those free versions are going to be designed not to become an agent, but to further limit your algorithmic choices and to understand what it is that gets you to spend your attention on a platform.
Do you agree with him about him not believing in the lowest level with the physical space?
Yeah, I don't think that we're on some kid's computer. I think that we live in a simulation, but we create it because why? We are physiological organisms that deal with billions and billions of bits of information, a lot of it visual, auditory, and we have to filter out that information in order for us to survive and to flourish. And so each one of us has a different headset on and sees a completely different reality. But what do we share? We share the basic laws of physics. We seem to share the basic laws of physics. so that if I bump into you, we're going to feel it, right? But we are more and more moving away from a civilization that has a kind of agreed upon way of looking at reality, and we are fragmenting reality so much now that you can have somebody who thinks, an assassinated public figure is evil, and the other side to think the assassinated public figure is a saint, and they're completely different realities, and they have different interfaces. What they see is different. What they hear is different, especially because we spend so much time scrolling that if you want to know somebody, go into their Instagram feed and scroll through it. You will see what they like. You will see what they care about, right? We all live in these different realities. And it's a simulation. So what does that mean? If we could take control of our own code, we can do whatever we want, except for the two things that stand in your way from doing anything you want. One is time and chance. I don't care how, much you manifest. If you can get hit by a car. You could suffer a random shooting. You could fall and break, right? I mean, time and chance happens to everybody. And the other limitation is your body. What is the situation your body is in? Is your body inside of a jail cell with, being abused and all that stuff? Is your body in a nice house? Where is your body? Because that's the other thing that can determine, your outcomes. Those are the only two limitations. Everything else, you could do whatever you want because you are creating the interface. However, do what you want. You could do whatever you want is a very, very faith-based bourgeois way of looking at free will. If you were to really go back to every decision you made, you might find that your organism made that decision long before you were aware of it. And only after you make the decision does your prefrontal cortex make sense of it and add it to your story. This book, I highly recommend this book. It will allow you to go really deeper into the simulation and to be able to create. And this is by Robert Sapolsky. He's a neuroscientist at Berkeley, I believe. No, Stanford. Neuroscientist at Stanford. And this book is called Determined. And his argument, and it's just a brilliant argument, I don't think it could be refuted, is that we do not have free will. Period. What we have is a measure of spatial temporal control, but we don't have free will. And the basic example of this is you have no free will to choose your next thought. Your thought will come to you. You have no will to choose the next song that gets stuck in your head, right? This is just a basic example, but his argument is incredible, because what he's basically saying is that every decision you make, even though you think you're making it there, it's connected to your entire physiological experience and your memory and everything that's ever happened to you in your whole entire life. Every decision. And it's probably true. And if we realize that, then we can quit blaming ourselves for what we do that is good, I mean, that bad, and rewarding ourselves for what we do that is good, because a lot of what we do is because of luck. And that's another thing Wallace doesn't do in the have in the equation. Time and chance happens to us all. Chance is another way of saying luck.
You also would be bringing the argument of, do intrusive thoughts really win over then if you're going to talk about, you can't choose your next thought, but you can choose your next action. And so there's that back and forth,
Right.
Kind of back what you were saying about taking control and creating our own story and all that.
Yeah, because what Sapolsky is saying, and I agree with him, is that we have control of we have some spatial temporal control of what we do with our bodies, right? And what we do with our bodies is what we do with our brains, because our brains always go with our bodies. We can't leave our brain behind, right? And so we do have some spatial temporal control. Like, we can decide how to move across the landscape, but those decisions that we think we're making that are not about spatial temporal control of the organism have already been encoded into us, based on everything from how we were born. Were we born in a hospital? Was there a midwife? Were we the generation where the first thing we did was get spanked by a doctor, which was, less, I mean, all these different things lead to how we configure ourselves as an organism. And so the organism responds to our code. And even though you don't have to believe it, to understand how much of your decision-making is based on your physiology allows you to exert more spatial temporal control in a state of heightened awareness.
Professor, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So what does that mean for when you do something that is way outside I'm a big believer in getting outside your comfort zone. Do things that make you hugely uncomfortable.
Right.
Dye your hair that weird color. Go talk to that girl that's way out of your league. Go on that trip that you don't think it. But if it's coded in me to resist those things. But I force myself to get out of that. But if it were, I mean, in your construct, like if it were really coded in me hard, I wouldn't go talk to that super pretty girl. I wouldn't go on that trip. I wouldn't cut my hair that weird thing,
Right.
so how do you, what is that,
Yeah, no, that's a really good question, but let me make it clear. This isn't my construct. This is Robert Sapolsky and Sam Harris and other philosophers and neuroscientists who it's kind of equal in terms of the science. Some believe there is free will and some believe no. This is just one of the best books written about it. But you're challenging yourself is not unrelated to where you grew up and who you grew up with and who lived across the street and the time you had to go outside and you might have fell and hit your knee and you got up and your knee was bleeding, and just millions and millions of other experiences that has caused you to arrive to the cognitive conclusion that you want to be able to step outside of your comfort zone, that it's important, and it becomes a value to you. It becomes encoded into the way that your program, for lack of a better word, runs. And so you are going to seek opportunities to express that. And there's going to be sometimes you get the opportunity and you're going to deny it, and it's no fault of your own. It's because there's something else going on. Maybe what you ate the night before, or you had an argument with your wife, or something caused you to make a decision that is counter to that way that you're, because your time and chance happens to everybody, but not everybody. Some people, even if they grew up in the same house, might have had experiences that caused them to say, ooh, I don't want to challenge. Maybe when they fell and they hit their knee like you did in that other scenario, they cut it really bad and had to go to the hospital, and it was the most traumatic experience. And that, even if they forgot it at the, later on in life, makes them more likely to avoid doing things that are dangerous, like a lot of people. So you know what I mean? It's like that's the idea behind the theory, that it's not Nick, your story saying, I am going to do this. This is me. I mean, it is, because you're putting your story together, but it's really a series of experiences and memories and physical experiences that are causing you to develop a particular way over another. Your brother, who might have been in the same bedroom as you, may not be the same way, right? Because his experiences are different. And Sapolsky would say, it's great that you do that, but you're doing that is just the way your organism is responding to the landscape, to what is around them, to phenomenon. And it's not how everyone would do, but it's how you would do. And you add the story later. That's what he would say. Basic example.
I'm just asking because I have kids and I'm trying to raise them. And
Right.
my advice to them always is get outside your comfort zone.
Yeah. And they
do the thing that scares you, Like, I mean, don't charge off a cliff, don't, but do the thing that scares you. So I don't know. I guess I was just a dad,
You're a good dad, Nick. And that's going to help them to encode that part. They're going to now have more potential to face challenges than after you've done that. It doesn't mean all of them are going to, but it's definitely an advantage. The biggest influence that we have of who we are today are our parents, or those who raise us. And that's why it's incredibly difficult for people who are raised in abusive homes where they're neglected. It's very difficult for them to manifest riches, right? Because they're so, and I know my parents messed me up big time. And one of the graces of living a long life is that, you begin to process things, to put them together in more effective ways. But yeah, do that. Because even if they don't have free will when they eat the marshmallow, you know what test I'm talking about, right? The marshmallow test at Stanford. You guys have all heard of this. They put kids in a room and they put 2 marshmallows in front of them, and they pretended like they got a phone call. And they said, okay, these 2 marshmallows, if you eat one, if you eat them, one marshmallow. If you eat this marshmallow, that's all you get. But if you don't eat it, you'll get a second marshmallow. And then they left the room. And there were some kids who, they have it all on video. It's kind of, they're like, oh, and they can't help it, and they eat the marshmallow. And there's other kids who resist. And the conclusion of the study, which is incredibly, incredibly biased and ridiculous, was that those who resisted the marshmallow are going to be more successful than those kids who didn't, right? I don't remember why I brought
it's called the time currency study.
the time currency study. Yeah, yeah. But the discussion about the oh no. So anyway, yeah. You're their biggest influences. I'm a daddy. I have a 6-year-old, and I want her to get out of her comfort zone as well. You know, but yeah, like you said, not too crazy. And you know, and I just, yeah. If you want to have, but anyway, whether or not there's free will, the point is you have control over your interface. You have control over your simulation. Now, as a writer, what do you do with that control? That's where we're going. And we have maybe one more class that's going to talk about the paradigm, the model. And then after that, and then we're going to have a class where we invite a bunch of people to talk about their business, their entrepreneurship and publishing. Maybe Nick, we could even get you to talk about Raconteur Press, man, because I subscribe and I'm getting like 5 emails from you guys a day, man. You guys are doing a lot of work.
Don't threaten me with a good time. I can talk about it for like 9 hours.
Well, yeah, why don't we do that? Why don't we spend some time where we talk about yours? But the thing is that what was I saying? What was I saying? Help me. It's 7.
People coming in to talk about their businesses.
Business endeavors, yeah.
Yeah, after that, we're gonna revisit the live classes. But after that, you know, after we meet with those, you're gonna default into just doing your project and your
the internship.
And your internship, and you're going to post about that, and we're not going to be meeting all the time in live class. So I think we're going to have 2 more. So the point is for now to understand that as a biological organism, which is the first premise, you create the interface within which you react and which you define terms such as success and riches. You could take the Wallace Waddle book, and every time he says rich, replace it with, you know, creativity, the science of being creative, the science of, you know, whatever it is that you want. And it still works. Yeah, go ahead, Vincent.
I said published. Replace rich with published.
Yeah, yeah. The science of getting published. It's perfect. Yeah, it's the same mechanisms. And again, I wish we had time to go through every line, but it's already been an hour and 40 minutes. And I know.
May I ask a quick question, Professor? If possible, in simple terms, what's the fundamental reason for believing that we're not seeing the truth, that we live in a simulation, it's not true?
It depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to a Christian, I would say that the truth is heaven, the truth is God. If you're talking to a quantum physicist, they might say that the truth is just made up of particles. If you're talking to a digital physicist, they might say the truth is a binary code of information. It all depends. I mean, that's up to you to decide. There is no such thing as truth except for within a particular perspective.
Okay.
And you create your own truth, whether you want to believe it or not. And so if you use a structure to help you with your truth, you're probably going to, you know, advance more quickly. You can create your own structure, but there are structures that are already there that can really help you to create the life that you want. But there are limitations, time and chance, and your body.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions or comments or anything?
So regarding
too.
What?
Sorry, I'll be fast. Sorry, Kevin. I just wanted to point out that the book to me reminded me a lot of Autobiography of a Yogi. A lot of the same principles and concepts that were from Yogananda. Also, the power of positive thinking. Right. Yeah, I just wanted to make that comment.
Brilliant, brilliant. That's absolutely true. The power of positive thinking is considered New Thought philosophy. right? That is another way of articulating what Wattles does. What the other ones do, like Vincent or like Vincent Norman Peale and others, what they do with the New Thought philosophy is they add a lot of cultural details to reinforce the ideas. They quote the Bible a lot more, and they do little stories. Wattles, reduce it. And then the other one you said was the autobiography of a yogi, because if you look at you'll see that all these ideas are but you could say based on, depending on your perspective and your reality, but correspond to the ancient Eastern ideas that have been around for thousands of years. And that idea is based in monism. And monism was rediscovered by Aristotle, and it's rediscovered by so many generations of Western philosophers. But the idea first articulated perhaps in the Eastern mystics was that all things are one. Everything else is an illusion. And that is before there was a duality, there was only one thing. And even again, physics is trying to do this. They're trying to, find that one thing that is everything. Religion, it's very easy. It's God, right? God is everything. But yeah, ultimately, almost any belief system has a monistic element at its basis, as its basic structure. And then what they add on to it after that is a duality. And that duality could be good or bad. It could be male or female. It could be zeros and ones, but they add a duality after that. And then they add usually a three, like a three this, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, and then a four, which could be the four directions, and then a five. And so they keep building onto, but it all begins with monism. And so it might be a good indication that there's something about human existence and belief that we really are one. And as one, we should probably have a lot more compassion to each other, right? But yeah, absolutely. I don't think you'll find a mystical system that will deny monism. Not even those religions that we associated as a plurality of gods. What do they call them? What do they call them?
Polytheism.
Polytheistic.
Polytheism, because even at the root of polytheism is one God, one force, one spirit, one energy. And in physics, what is that? One thing, right? I mean, it's all, nobody knows, but everybody believes it. And that's why it's probably good not to love your duality, but to use it to help you build a system. But don't love it. Don't fall in love with your own dualities. I hope that some of this makes sense. I really geek out on this stuff, and I tell you, you learn some of this stuff and it could equip you for the rest of your life and help you really live the life that you want to live. Yeah, I know many of you are doing it anyway, living the life you want to live, but it really is very helpful. I missed the comments.
So sorry. I just wanted, because obviously Michelle had to she wanted, that's fine. I just wanted to ask, because I noticed I'm looking at the micro communities, which of course, like you explained earlier, but underneath that you have listed intern assignments. Is there a day by which we should be beginning that process?
Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we make it when is the next live class?
Is that on the calendar?
The next live class, I think, is October. I couldn't do it on the 4th because I'm going to be out of town. But let me look in my calendar. I hope I put it in my calendar. I hope I put it in our calendar. Is it in our calendar?
I don't see it in our calendar.
Okay.
Maybe it's in the other.
There's
Okay,
one
let's see.
the week under week 9, the week of October 20th through October 25th.
There's one under week 6, or sorry, week 7, October 6th through October 11th.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, so let's have it by week 6. Now, I gave a list of those people who already volunteered. Pat, I'm sorry I missed yours. What, write me the name of the organization that you want to volunteer with. And then somebody else asked me about
That was me.
oh yeah, and which one did you want to do?
It was the words on the wire are technically literate. I don't care which one, whichever one has space. I just
Okay,
want to
I'll
work
put
with
you
one of
in-
the podcasts.
Okay, I'll put you in one of those then. And yeah, so
Okay.
if you're not on the list, it doesn't mean that you didn't do what you were supposed to do. It just means I haven't heard from you yet. But you still have until I think 2 weeks, right? You still have 2 weeks. And then, like I said, after that live class, I'm gonna, most of the class time is going to be every week you go into discussion board and say what you've been doing or follow the prompt. And that's it. The most of the work at a certain point is going to be your
Right. And so for those of us who are working through UTEP remotely, I guess when will we receive guidance on what that will look like?
Okay, if you have until you have another 2 weeks. So once that 2 weeks pass, I will give your contact info to your supervisor and they will contact you.
Thank you.
You don't need to introduce yourselves at this point. So, because again, I don't want you doing it too early because now I want you concentrating on the paradigm of the course.
Understood.
And what we've been talking about. And I'll share some more articles with you and things like that. And we'll have, again, we'll have one more talk like this. And then towards the end of the class, we'll wrap it up by bringing things together.
I had a question, Professor.
Uh-huh.
I already started my project. How many reels do you want?
I don't know. That's a really good question. Is your final project just a series of reels?
Yes, I have a very unique project that I started, and I'm really excited about it. So I can do up to 6 reels and put it all together.
Okay, but what do you mean by reels exactly?
Okay, the reels. So I got together with a multimedia storyteller at the University of North Texas. So she's my camera person. And so we're working together and we're doing reels at the recreation center of workers and students who are storytellers. And so they do their storytelling or give us their story in 3 minutes.
That sounds great. So you're only going to have 3-minute stories.
Reels.
Right.
But I can make them longer. I mean, I can make them as long as you want.
I'm okay with that, but they need to be edited, and there needs to be some sort of introduction.
Yes.
And even interludes between, and then a conclusion. But yeah, it sounds like a great project. It sounds very interesting. You could use the individual reels and send them out, but you'll have a whole work of this vision you have. Sounds good.
Yes, exactly. Okay, that's good. Thank you.
Any other questions about the class or anything else?
I have one, and I just want to make sure I did it right. So when because I told you earlier that I had submitted to you the proposal for the internship. I did it through Blackboard because I thought it was supposed to be like a submission, and so I wasn't sure if I submitted something in the wrong place, like that.
Yeah,
I just want to. You don't
I
care?
don't know. Yeah, I think Pat did the same thing, but I don't even know what that is.
It's the thing where it says the deadline and the information. It has a box down there where it's like, here, submit here.
That's to submit the final project.
Okay, well, that's why I wanted to check with you because I was like, if I had submitted something and then I can't go back and submit later, whatever that was supposed to be originally.
Yeah, I'll take it out.
Okay,
Don't worry about it.
okay.
Yeah, no, if you have, use the message system in Blackboard.
Okay.
I respond to your messages in Blackboard. Don't email me, use because the emails I'm not going to read. If you're in the class, do it through messages because it just, my brain just can't handle that
Right.
many.
I just thought it was like a class assignment. Like we would get like a quick grade for submitting the internship. That's why I thought it was supposed to be through that window.
Oh, no, the grading is on the syllabus.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and I won't grade you for something that's not on the syllabus.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, you still have a little time to look into organizations. I would really encourage you to volunteer with one of the organizations that have on the list, because that way we'll have more of you in each community, and that could, help us really network very well with each other. If you do it with an organization where there's no other students, you're not going to have that experience that you might have if you're together. So anyway, so far I got the so far list up. Is every time you somebody who hasn't claimed yet where they're going to be, just message me and I'll put that on the list.
Thanks.
In the next class, I'm going to have a representative from Flower Song Press, somebody from Mouthfeel Press, and somebody from Catalyst Press, which is, you guys all know Jessica Powers. She's the publisher of Catalyst Press. And, oh yeah, and somebody from Words on a Wire. Okay, anything else? Okay, then thank you for your patience. It really is very helpful for me to have you leave comments and questions and things you're curious about, because I just want to know what ideas are engaging to you. So that way I could, I want to teach this class every year. And so I want to make it better and better. This is the second attempt. The first one we tried to do in 7 weeks. It just didn't work. So this is the second attempt at doing this. And you can take it as many times as you want. It's all about giving you time to do what you want to do and build community, right? All right.
Thank you.
Okay, remember,
Sounds good.
remember
Thank
your groups. Start commenting on your groups. Okay, start commenting on your groups. I was up at 4, so I'm a little tired and I'm probably losing my ability to think. So, or maybe I lost it before the class even started. So thank you, everybody.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. Have a
Bye.
good
Good
night.
night.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You.